Hi, this is Jennifer Perkins, course facilitator for LIB 801. I want to show you just a little bit about the Snagit interface. You can find some excellent tutorials at the techsmith.com website, and I highly suggest you use those. But this might provide just a very elementary look at the interface, give you a couple of ideas for what you can do in your project for LIB 801, as well as for things you do in the future, because there are some pretty cool things you can do just with Snagit. So let's go to the Start menu, and I'll pick Snagit 11. I have the most up-to-date version of Snagit. If you installed Snagit right when the course started, you may have one version below this one, and I highly recommend you go ahead and update yours if you haven't already, because the menu actually has changed somewhat. It still gives you the same options, it's just that things are a little more condensed into different icons, and I think you'll probably like this interface better, but just so you know, this is the most up-to-date. When I first start Snagit, you see this little red thing here up at the top. This is a little thing that will stay on your desktop, so that whenever you need to snag an image, whether it be off the internet, off of just a Word document, anything you want, you can snag that image readily and easily. You'll notice there's a red button here to actually start the snagging process, and there's a little camera here, so it's an image capture. Now, Snagit with the latest version now allows you actually video capture as well, which is really nice, because if you want to do some on-the-fly video captures of screens, you can use that video capture, and then you can export that into Camtasia Studio and do some really nice edits. So just so you know, I'm not going to actually use that right now, but that is definitely an option for you. Down here you can actually enter the Snagit editor, which is where you'll be working with your images, just by clicking this. But for now we're going to actually just snag an image. And let's say that I am on a website. Let's say I'm looking at this website. This is for Screencast-O-Matic, which is a tool that's similar to Camtasia Studio. It's a lot cheaper and it doesn't have as many options, but it does a pretty decent job. But anyway, let's say I was just looking at that and I like their logo. I want to say design a logo similar for myself. Okay, so I have Snagit up here at the top of the screen. I have my image capture set. I click the record button basically. You notice these crosshairs, these yellow crosshairs appear. This is so I can select exactly what I want to capture. So I put that corner right next to the Screencast-O-Matic logo, and I just basically pull my cursor over the area, pull my mouse over the area I want to capture. I want to capture just that, and as soon as I'm done, I let up my mouse and the editor, the Snagit editor, appears. Okay, so it's basically, I've got this image now sitting on a canvas, and I can pretty much do what I please with it. Now for you guys in this project, I don't believe you're going to be doing a whole lot with your images that you create other than resize them. Let me show you a little bit about resizing before we do anything else. But what I would do is I'd come over to the Image tab at the top. I'd resize, because I'm resizing. Resize my image. And this is the area you're going to be using for your project later on. You'll find the instructions for that in the appropriate module. But you can change the width and the height of your image. You can change the print dimensions, and you can change the resolution. And these are things you're going to be looking at when you work on your project. Now, one thing I should say, the Snagit for Mac is somewhat different. Your window for this will not look quite the same. It's a lot smaller, but you should still get a pretty good idea of things you can do here. Let's say I just want to make this a little bit smaller. I would not recommend making your images larger than what you've snagged them at, simply because when you have an image at a certain size and then you enlarge that, you are distorting things. You're basically stretching those pixels, and it's going to make a blurry look. So I would never enlarge this larger than the 402 by 79. But I'm going to make it smaller to Let's make it 300 in width. Before I do that, I want to make sure the proportions are locked so that the width and the height change at the same time. When I change this to 300, you notice my height also becomes smaller in proportion. I say OK, and the image has gotten smaller. Okay, let me show you just a couple of other things you can do with your images. You may or may not need to do this for your project, but just so you know for the future, because Snagit is so handy. I use Snagit just about every day of my work week. You can take an image and you can add some effects to it. And this is one thing I really like if I'm creating, say, a tutorial document for an audience. I can do a flip page look. So you'll notice at the corner of that Screencast-O-Matic logo now I've got a little flip, like a page flip. I can simply add a shadow. I can create a torn-like effect. In this case that's too large and I'd have to make it's a shark tooth effect. I'd have to make the size of those shark teeth smaller, and we won't get into that. I can do a torn page effect, and I used to love this one. I'm not as crazy about it as I used to be, but I like it. You can do simply a fade. So you can do some really cool effects using these image effects tools. You can add borders to your image by clicking border, selecting the color, and then selecting the width. So maybe I want just a very tiny border around it. You can make an image grayscale. You can add a watermark. You can spotlight and magnify, which is really nice, but I won't get into that here. You can do cropping. You can cut out a certain area. For instance, if I only wanted to show this piece and kind of leave out that circle, I can select the part I want to kind of fade out, cut out, and select the fade area, and you can see then that disappears, and it's like the two pieces, you know they're supposed to join in some way, but you're leaving out a piece of it you don't want the audience to see maybe. So that's an idea. To redo what you've just done, just click the redo button. Okay. You can trim, you can change your canvas color, rotate, things like that. Okay, let's come back to the Tools tab for a second. These are some options that you may or may not use. One in particular you will probably need is the callouts, because your text callout button is here. When I click callout, you'll notice I've got a variety of callout options, and when I click this arrow, I've got even more. If I want to add just a pure and simple text box, I would click this one. And let's say I just want to add some small amount of type here and put my name. Okay. I might move, if I can grab onto it again, I might move it to where I want it to be. Okay, something like that. Let's actually make this a smaller font size because it's not fitting on here very well. I would change my font size to say 10, and now you can see there it is. Okay, when I save my image, I'll save all of this together, and now my image will show Screencast-O-Matic, Jennifer's Screencast-O-Matic. I've got a pencil tool, I've got stamp tools, I've got lots of things that I might use or might not use, and this is where you need to go to the techsmith.com website just to see what you can and cannot do. But for your future use in particular, as much as for this project and maybe more, you really need to check out what you can do with Snagit, because it is an excellent tool for snagging images or simply opening images. Watch me do this. Let's say I want to open a picture from my folder in my documents. I can open up a document, or open up an image, I'm sorry, and then I could potentially add a call out to this. So I might have, even for personal use, I might be wanting to show people pictures of a trip and say, I was right here. Not that I was, but let's say that I was. I can then make that a larger font to look pretty. I could change my color so that now it's a different color font. I can change the outline of the speech bubble itself. Then I can save this image. And there are just so many things I can do in that regard. I can make this image, I can basically crop this image to the size I want it, all that type of stuff. So it's just an excellent tool that you can use to grab images, add comments, create technical documents if you want, tutorial documents on how to do things. So this is just giving you an idea of what you can do inside Snagit, and to let you know that it's not as scary maybe as it might appear when you first go in. Both Camtasia and Snagit might appear complicated. They're not, as long as you stick with the basic stuff and just go from there to learn the more advanced options. Thanks for listening, and I hope this helps.